Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody, for sticking around for the last talk in this session. I've been really impressed with all of the talks that have come before me and just learning about all these different types of platforms that people are using. I think this is just really fascinating. So I'm going to talk a little bit about an augmented reality app that we developed that was, we're in the same problem there as your team there, Paula, with we're pretty far away from the ocean. So trying to give our students a bit of experience about what the ocean is like. And that's why we sort of developed this augmented reality app. And then we've developed a bit of a research project around that app as well. So I'll kind of take you through those things. My collaborators were Dr. Lisa Briona, Dr. Isha Decoito. They are probably asleep right now, but they are here in spirit, and they were integral to help complete this project. So this all kind of started. I teach kind of interdisciplinary environmental sciences classes, and we wanted to build something that would really engage the students. So this is the augmented reality app here. It's called MarineXR. It is on Google Play and the App Store. So I would invite you to download that now if you are interested, and you can certainly try it out while we're talking here. And I can give you the let me see where the chat has disappeared on. Oh, there it is. Sorry. The username to log in is envirosci1021, and the password is uncreatively 1021. This is the name of my class, and this is its code number. So if you download that from either Google Play or the App Store, just enter in MarineXR into either of those stores, and you'll be able to see the app, and you should be able to download it, enter in that login, and then there's a couple of different experiences that you can go through as well. Okay. So as I was saying there, I teach these interdisciplinary first year classes. And one of the things I noticed is that in these first year science classes, we get a lot of students that are trying to collect the breadth requirement. So many universities require a breadth requirement. So you need to take, if you're an arts and humanities student, you need to take a science credit in order to graduate. So my class is very popular for that, but I found this really big engagement gap between science students that were in the class and kind of non-science majors. And they view themselves as non-science people, which is ridiculous, of course, but that's the kind of the viewpoint they come in with. So I thought, okay, how can we make science a little bit more exciting for them? They're worried and anxious about some of the hard science that they might learn in the class. How can we kind of help motivate them to look at that material and engage with that material, potentially using some of these immersive technologies, which we know can increase engagement and motivation. So that was the reason we started up MarineXR. And I'll just give you a little video here of what the experience is like. So we focused on one of Canada's kind of largest fish, the basking shark. And so you get swallowed by a shark as part of the experience. You can tap on different parts of the shark. You can walk around the shark as well. When you get swallowed by the shark, you see what it feeds on. So you see zooplankton surrounding you. You also see phytoplankton that the shark would be feeding on. And we put microplastics in there to talk about that as well. This is the deep scattering layer, so we're talking about carbon sequestration in the deep ocean as well. And then we kind of gamify it a bit. So you got to put satellite tracking tags on sharks while you're there too. So we added in kind of a gamification aspect. XR Studios was our kind of local collaborator while we were working with them. So I will just get past this. Sorry. So this is kind of some real-time students using it. So this is in the classroom, and this is a student going through that gamification aspect, trying quite unsuccessfully to attach a satellite tag to one of the basking sharks. As part of the app as well, it tells you about what kind of data we get back from those satellite tags and how we analyze it. And we kind of combine that, the augmented reality experience, with teaching them, helping to analyze data that would come back from those tags. So kind of like they get to sort of collect the data themselves within the app. Now, if you saw my talk last year, the goal of this was to close the engagement gap between students. And there's kind of a lot going on here, but the colors represent when we had students go through. The control group was just like through our online learning management system. So it's just a web-based portal, kind of more traditional thing. And then we had the augmented reality app that I just showed you. And this figures here is looking at their cognitive load, so their mean cognitive load, and then whether or not they enjoy science. So it's that kind of engagement gap that I was talking about. So on the right-hand side, they're not enjoying science. On the left-hand side, they are enjoying science. And the key thing here is to see that as you go further down this mean score on the cognitive load, that means there's more cognitive load. It's more difficult for you to go through the material and the content. And what we were actually seeing then is there was a difference depending on how much you enjoyed science. There was a difference in your cognitive load. So if you didn't enjoy science, it was the AR app had a much higher cognitive load for you than if you did enjoy it. So actually, instead of closing that engagement gap, I accidentally widened it, which is the opposite of what we were trying to do, made it the AR experience was a little bit too much for those students who were already a little bit hesitant about science. So we decided to make a slightly different app, kind of take a little bit of different approach. And that app is, oh yeah, sorry. So this is what we wanted to do then once we built that second app, was understand how does the experience actually impact this? So does the type of experience matter? Does this kind of high cognitive load or widening of the gap actually happen across a range of different experiences? So this is just a little promo video for the second part of the app that we built. And if you've already downloaded the app, you can scroll down to the bottom of the level options, and coral reef biodiversity and fisheries are the two apps that you can run that are kind of the second apps that we developed. This was all about, okay, how do we turn your bedroom into a fish tank, pretty much. And so this was added on to MarineXR. You can still access the original basking shark work in there as well, but we really wanted to kind of create this kind of new app. And I'll just show you what that looks like. This is my office in London, Ontario. Here's a turtle kind of swimming around it. And I can sort of click on that turtle. It will bring up a pop-up that will tell me about it. There's a sea snake swimming under my desk there. The app is dynamically sensing the surfaces, so you can see it's found my desk and the wall, so it's putting coral popping out of my desk, and it's growing off of my door there and things like that. So it kind of makes this sort of immersive scape, if you will. And all of these different 3D models you can click on, and it will bring you up pop-ups that will tell you a little bit about them. This is kind of just some screenshots of what it looks like. So in this app, we actually included multiple choice questions that you had. You can actually, like I was saying before, click on the models that are there, but you can also click on the models to answer questions. So in the far right piece here, we're saying collect 2 models that are popular in the aquarium trade. There's a yellow tag there, so you would touch it with your finger and you would kind of collect that to answer the question. So slightly different. They're shorter. They're kind of they have little quick hints and things about the questions that they have. You get little feedback on it. So whereas the first one is a much more kind of narrated audio walkthrough tour around basking sharks, this is much more kind of potentially interactive and more quick hitting. So we ran the same sets of students through again, and we did that and we did this remotely because it's just hard to keep track if we let the students do it outside the classroom, and you can't run them all in the classroom at the same time because there's not enough space. So they run it remotely in their own spaces at home. We kind of randomized them into one breakout room or another. They got the first augmented reality experience in group 1, which was the basking shark one. They got the second kind of coral reef and fisheries in the second room. Then once they were done, we asked them a quick survey, say, hey, how did that go? And then we allowed them to take the opposite one, and then we did a follow-up survey with them. At the beginning, we asked them questions like, hey, does science make you nervous? Are you anxious about science? And we use that to try and predict what their responses are going to be. A range of different things, different standardized scales that we use, including the instructional motivational survey. So key thing is here, what we're going to see next is how those students respond based on whether or not they value and enjoy science. So at the bottom here is the value and enjoyment of science. So on the far end, higher numbers mean you value and enjoy science more. And on the left-hand axis is the scores going up for each of these different kind of measurements that we took. So things like satisfaction, how immersed were you in the app? And you can see there is kind of like a general trend of everything kind of going up. So the more you kind of value science, the more kind of like immersed you felt, regardless of if you're doing the basking shark app or the coral reef app. But the cool thing about this is that when we just measured their enjoyment of science, actually there wasn't any real big differences between the two different experiences. The lines mostly are going in the same direction. And so in this case, it didn't really make a huge difference based on their enjoyment of science. But when we looked at what happens when you ask them questions about whether they're anxious towards science. So here, we ask them questions like, hey, does science make you anxious? A 5 means yes, science makes me really anxious. A 1 means no, it doesn't really make me anxious. And the cool thing to look at here is we're getting lots of X's. So these are interactions. So this means that depending on how anxious you are towards science, you respond differently to the two different apps. So for example, if we look at engagement usability, that's the same thing we saw before with the value of science. There's no big difference between the two experiences. But if we look at something just below it, like satisfaction, the blue line is the coral reef. So this is the second experience that we built. And for students that were really anxious about science, they were way more satisfied with that experience. But the green is the flip side. If you weren't really anxious about science, you really liked the basking shark experience more. So this is really cool to me because it's kind of being like, okay, we actually built two apps that suit two different kind of subpopulations within our classroom. And that was, well, not something we certainly set out to do, but interesting that we ended up doing that accidentally. But this was true for a variety of things. So how much engagement did you have? How engrossed were you and what was your emotional attachment to that experience? So all of these things are sort of different. And again, this is one of the struggles with teaching interdisciplinary classrooms, of course, because you have students coming from really widely different backgrounds. But this is kind of cool. Actually, maybe do we need two different types of immersive reality in a classroom like this? One that caters to each end of the spectrum. So that's maybe we do. This was asking them at the end. We said, hey, like which experience did you prefer? And this was really interesting. So on the left-hand side, these students took the basking shark experience first. And the majority of them said the basking shark experience was the best by a bit. On the right-hand side, they took the coral reef and fishery. So that was the second experience we built. They did that one first. And they said that the coral reef experience was the one that they wanted. So there's a bit of some order effects that we have to disentangle there, that, you know, this is potentially, by the time they've done through 2 experiences, they're like, okay, I'm kind of done now. And that would be about maybe 20 minutes of time in the immersive reality experiences. So perhaps the first, you know, the first one they took, there's also potentially a novelty piece here. Right? Once you've kind of done one thing in augmented reality, you're like, oh, that's cool. When you do it again, does the novelty kind of start to wear off a bit? So students actually kind of gave us some open-ended responses to why they preferred either or. And I found this really interesting too. So for the basking shark experience, some of them were annoyed. I've sort of color coded these as red is good, green, red is bad, green is good, and orange is kind of, we had differing opinions. But for the basking shark experience, we tried to put a basking shark like in your bedroom. So a basking shark is about the size of a city bus. So students were kind of annoyed. They had to like move around to try and, you know, get around the shark. They really enjoyed learning a lot about one species in that particular experience. And the basking shark one has audio narration, so some students really liked that. Others said they found that kind of annoying as part of that basking shark experience. On the coral reef, the second experience that we built, they said it was less immersive than the first one, and it certainly is. The basking shark one is kind of beautifully created as this immersive experience. So they said it was less immersive, wasn't quite as interesting, but it was more holistic because they learned a lot about different species. Some of them really liked the questions, but others said, no, I don't actually like the questions. So again, this is kind of like, we've got 2 different populations within the classroom, and they're responding differently to these 2 different augmented reality experiences. So, I mean, I hope maybe there's some happy medium in the middle, but you wouldn't maybe get the best experience for either end in that case either. So yeah, I thought these are some really interesting results. It's going to change how we use immersive reality in our classrooms, because I mean the big takeaway here is it is context dependent. Like students' experience with these type of immersive reality applications totally depends on their and in this case their disciplinary backgrounds or their feelings toward the subjects that they're learning. And we kind of focused on students' anxiety towards science here. So yeah, kind of some interesting results from this study. We're going to carry on testing this. And one of the things that I should mention quickly here is that we built this second app. All of these questions are loaded from a database, and we've built an instructor portal. So I've put in these questions for my class, but if you wanted to use this app, please reach out, because we can design custom questions. We've got multiple choice. It will take short answer, true, false. It gives feedback. It gives hints. And we've got over 100 different marine species that you can choose from, and you can develop your own experience for your own class. So it's fully customizable. That's one of the things we took a lot of time to do. So if you wanted to use this in your class, please reach out. And it's very quick for us to set up different questions. We grab a bunch of different species that you want, and then the app dynamically updates them. And you can give your students an access code like I gave to all of you. And then you can test it out as well. So I just want to say a quick thank you to our funders for this project. We were funded through the Unity for Humanity grant, and eCampus Ontario is from the provincial government of Ontario. And thank you all very much again for sticking it out. And yeah, happy to answer any questions, though I'm sure we probably want to go to bed or get to work, whatever, depending on what side of the globe we're on. Thank you.
Wow, that was a really incredible presentation. That's the very first presentation where I actually got to like go behind me and lean into this giant shark mouth and then back away only to have a little shark come swim in between my legs. And that's the first time for me. So I look forward to checking out more about the app. And just building on what you said at the end, you know, we're hearing lots of some doomers in the headlines about AI taking over humanity, and there's lots of hype there. But I'm just going to say it's actually really cool in 2023 to be listening to a presentation, and it's so positive and inspiring, and like, hey, if you want an app, we can, you know, turn one around for you really quick. Like, it's just wonderful that technology has progressed like that. Like, whereas it used to be creating an app was quite a big production and out of reach for many people. And now it's like, hey, well, if you want one, we can custom make it for you, and just let me know. So that's just wonderful that we've advanced to that level of creating and sharing. That's just really inspiring. And yeah, you generated a wealth of data. I'm glad you're continuing to study it, because I think that will help just to keep, you know, making sense over time of all the data. And I was listening 80% because you gave us the app to download at the beginning. So there were.
Oh, that was a mistake, wasn't it? And everybody just nobody's listening to what I'm saying. Yeah, cool research. Anyways, shark. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I did want people to have a go with it as well. So okay, that's good. Yeah, multitasking is good. So yeah, thanks so much, Paula. And I think that was one of the things that we really focused on when we were designing the app, is I didn't want it to be static. I didn't want to be making the decisions for every instructor about what species they wanted to test and what questions they wanted to ask. So we made sure it's really straightforward we've got a list of species you can pick from. You can put together. It was cool hearing everybody tonight being like, yeah, just trying to do super realistic things is boring, but just mix it up and do crazy weird stuff. And so, you know, like we can put species together that don't belong together, or freshwater and saltwater species, and that kind of, you know, makes it a little bit more interesting too. So yeah, thank you for the kind comments, and thanks for facilitating this session.
Oh, you're welcome to. And also, I will say I'm glad for you to continue the research, because I think too, like even a comment that I think you said was some students, you know, they didn't expect to kind of have to walk around and look for the shark or turtle, like, but that might just be like assumptions, right? Because I've used lots of AR. So like, I mean, I'm like, okay, where's the shark? Where's the shark? Oh, there's the shark. Because it's like my whole room is now shark, right? So it's like quite the it's like I had anticipation, right? Because it's like I know it's here, so where is it? And then when it's there, it's like, you know, that kind of delight. So I had a very different reaction, but maybe it's just if some haven't used AR and they have a different experience, and that's not really the app. It's just they have really, you know, they don't know what to expect with AR.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So excellent.
Yeah, well, you got lots of comments on you. Just a great app. It's really cool. Love assessments included, so there's that immediate feedback. And yeah, the shark has a big mouth, that's for certain. Get to walk right in. And yeah, inspirational. Yeah. Thank you so much. That's a wonderful presentation, and it's really great to learn more about the research you're doing too. So
cool. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. And did you build the app? So I saw you got the grant, or you have students to help you build it?
So we got a grant. We were working collaboratively with a local creative industry partner. So they help us kind of design it. And one of the things that is good about that, you can so that you can customize it is now we can have students create their own little modules as well for their own, with their own questions, with their own species that they can share with each other. So that was another kind of cool thing that we wanted to be able to do. So we're just kind of getting started with this, and hopefully looking to expand it a lot more.
Yeah, I love that phase. And then when students are creating and they're all sharing their apps, they're also all getting more used to like an AR app and what unexpected things it can do, right? And then so you won't be getting kind of the comments, oh, I had to turn my head, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that's someone was unexpected, right? So I think it's good they'll get more experience because they will be so driven to see the work of their peers.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just wonderful. So thanks to everyone who's still here, and just really great inspiring night. So thanks everybody.